Okay, today we're going to look at how the body returns to its pre-exercise state. That's the important thing. When you're looking at the recovery process, you know you've recovered when the body is at the pre-exercise state. Okay? If you know what changes have happened to the body during exercise, then you can understand how the body can go back to its pre-exercise state. So obviously your ATP levels decrease, PC stores will go down, you'll be using glycogen, you'll also be using triglyceride, and your oxygen and myoglobin levels will be decreasing, and lactic acid will be going up. So as the body recovers, the body must work to reverse those changes you saw on the last slide. So for the recovery to take place, there is an energy cost, and it cannot happen immediately. This increased aerobic respiration used to repay the debt is the oxygen debt, and it's the amount of oxygen you consume above resting levels. That's important to remember that. So it's above your resting levels. EPOC is the name used to the abbreviation used to explain excess oxygen consumption, or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. And this is the extra amount of oxygen you use above your resting level that we talked about just before. So if you normally consume 2 litres and you're consuming 6, your EPOC is 4 litres. This extra oxygen consumption helps with the high cardiac output that the body needs at this time to help reduce the high body temperature. And your hormones are still working, such as adrenaline, remain in the blood, stimulating metabolism. That's why you carry on burning calories at a faster rate when you've finished exercising. Oxygen deficit is the amount of oxygen you need to reform all the phosphocreatine and glycogen used during the early stages of exercise when there wasn't enough oxygen available. This is an excellent graph that shows you when you're exercising here. This is how much work you're doing. Here is your resting oxygen levels, this bit here. And you can see that the oxygen deficit you get at the start of exercise here, that I'm shading in, is very similar in shape to here. Now this, from this point onwards, is recovery. So we're recovering from here on in. So you can see that there's 2 stages to recovery: the alactic acid and the lactic acid. And the alactic acid, the fast part, is where the oxygen deficit is repaid and your PC stores are increased and your oxygen stores are reloaded in your myoglobin in your muscles. This is often referred to as the slower part of recovery, the lactic acid part, where the lactic acid is removed from the body. As we just said from the graph, there's 2 components to recovery: alactic acid and the lactic acid component. This is fairly quick, about 3 minutes, to recover 100% of your PEC stores, and this can take up to an hour to 24 hours depending on how hard the exercise was, and really is involved with removing lactic acid. Okay, so number 1, the alactic acid component, is repaid very rapidly, takes 2 to 3 minutes and about 4 litres of O2. After about a minute, you have 50% of your PC stores back, and 3 minutes, you're around about 100%. So 100% recovery, a 3-minute rest time is a good amount of rest. Okay, the lactic acid component. The lactic acid accumulates in the muscle and the blood, and it's removed in 4 main ways. And here I've put 4 hours to complete, But really, it depends on how intense the exercise was. The more the intense the exercise, the longer the complete removal will take. Okay, so we were talking about the fate of lactic acid, where it's going to go, and about 60% of it goes into the Krebs cycle and converted back to pyruvic acid. That's because there's a lot more oxygen present in aerobic metabolism, which we didn't have before, so now we can break down lactic acid rather than leaving it in the muscles. Some is converted back to glucose, about 10%, in the Cori cycle, 5 to 10% is converted to proteins, and the rest is sweating in urine.